can't win, but we need at least one. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that is the biggest thing in the minds of Tempo Storm right now.
We have been waiting for this match all weekend long, and finally we have gotten to it. These players have been waiting for it too. Let's hear from them before we get started.
Versus Tempo, we're still feeling pretty confident, even though they did take down Roll 20 more convincingly than we did. Their weaknesses early in the season, we still think that a lot of those weaknesses are still there. So we're looking to exploit some things like the roll swap or their lack of synergy and other things that they displayed in their slump.
I think our biggest fear going into the set is we've been playing a lot of the same stuff and nobody figured it out, I feel like, so far. And if there's a team that can do it, it's probably Tempo. So we need to be ready for their curveball and like be ready to adapt to be able to beat them.
I've only been a pro for a couple of months, so for me to make it to an international LAN is a pretty big milestone already. And I think this is a good chance for me to prove with my team as well that, you know, maybe I'm not so overrated and I do have a spot in the scene.
After the mid-season brawl, I think us and Roll20, we took a little step back, probably we went into like a small slump, and I think we've managed to get back out of it. I think we're back in top shape, and we definitely should be the team to beat in NA, I think. Team Freedom's definitely improved a ton off of the last split with their roster change. Kira's given them a lot more flexibility overall, and they seem to be building their synergy pretty well. We're definitely prepared for them. Overall, they have pretty common like drafting themes and playstyles that they like to do. We should be able to have our own draft plan to work around that and just have a good macro setup to still be able to exploit some of their weaknesses that they still have, because they're still working on that aspect. But yeah, they're definitely one of the teams to beat, I would say.
It's so funny to hear both Collusion and Caterpillar talk about the draft for Team Freedom, because it's something that we have talked about as well, that they maybe are one of the more exploitable teams, and teams tried to do that early on versus Cure once they realized, okay, he's playing a lot of Genji, he's playing a lot of Dahaka, maybe some Li Ming as well. But the last time that was tested, Cure proved to be resolute and able to withstand that drafting, as well as the rest of the team. And that is why they've been able to stay strong in the place that they're at in standings.
Yeah, and I definitely can understand why the perception of Freedom is that is the biggest weakness overall. I would agree that Tempo Storm is probably the most likely team to be able to push the envelope in the hero pool depth. And when we did witness the team focusing out Cure, a lot of it was like, is Cure weak enough to be a big of a problem? And yes, he did prove it to be so, but I think there is an option against Team Freedom to kind of attend towards Cure on specific picks and then totally swap the direction and targeting towards another member. It's not like removing one key player from their key hero. Instead, it's the opposite of like pulling a lot of people from a tier 1 and moving them into this comfort level of tier 2. And if that happens, Freedom may not look like the same team.
Well, we have heard from a lot of the players as well as you guys about how hype this match is. So let's check out some tweets before we get started. And you can always tweet us using the hashtag HGC. From Feynman's Vortex, I need Team Freedom to 3-0 Tempo Storm today, so Glaurung and Roll20 Esports make it to the Western Clash. Well, it wouldn't be exact. They'd still have to win the tiebreaker, but I love that you've got the faith in Roll20 to make it happen.
Yeah, a lot of faith there in Fan. But look at this. We got Fury himself tweeting it out. Just need a one map win today to be able to qualify for the Clash versus Team Freedom. I won't be satisfied unless we take the series, though. Understandably so, because there is more on the line in the series than just the standings in the Western Clash Week. Carries over through to BlizzCon.
And Michael Udall, I'm so hyped to watch Tempo versus Freedom. And beyond, as you said, that there is more at stake with this match. If Tempo Storm is able to beat Freedom, Gale Force Esports will be the ones at the top of the standings. So while Roll20 are Team Freedom's biggest fans, Gale Force will be cheering for Tempo today.
You know, we're just splitting all North America with this series. By the end of it all, because
a house divided.
I mean, up until the teams, that aren't in the runnings, but there are a lot of them that are, and everybody's rooting for a different side just because it benefits them in the odds of making it to the Western Clash. I'm pretty sure everybody at home's pretty torn here too.
Well, it's up to us to stay objective at the desk. Ooh. Be the rock for North America at the casting desk. Let's get it going. Game number 1 will take place on Sky Temple. Battleground choice for Team Freedom. Bans coming in are Dragonshire, as well as Infernal Shrines for Tempo Storm. Team Freedom changing their ban. They had been banning Battlefield of Eternity in the past, but now they will be banning Dragonshire.
That's a really interesting adjustment coming out from them. Tempo still sticking to what they know best, and the Sky Temple priority here for Freedom is no surprise there. This is a very comfortable map for them. I would give a slight edge because Team Freedom is known, if they do have a biggest strength, it is their ability to team fight, and we know that this is a map where that is the most important variable to be successful. So if anybody has the edge, it in fact is the selector of the map, Team Freedom, but we are ready here to get into the draft between Tempo Storm and Team Freedom on Game 1.
A lot of Diva picks possible for Team Freedom, but they generally pick it at the very end of the draft. We've seen Roll20 even choose to ban Diva versus Team Freedom on those pivotal Diva battlegrounds, so we'll see if Tempo Storm wants to follow suit in that regard. Tempo Storm for Sky Tempo, we've only seen a couple of Sky games for them. They beat Superstars but fell to Roll20 and do enjoy playing some Abathur if they can get him.
Tempo decides they're going to be able to remove themselves a Tassadar. Does Freedom want to rid of the Genji? Uther? No, they go with an Anub Iraq. So already a bit different than the drafting that we saw of the last series. A lot of focus on those heroes, but now Anub Iraq sees a bit more attention.
Likely we'll see that follow up with a Stitches pick from Zugrug. It has been his prioritized, his favorite hero. Sitting at 9-1 with Stitches throughout Phase 2. Is that maybe something that you think Tempo will try to take away then?
That's
because
what they're
Caterpillar's
thinking.
been playing it a lot as well.
I think that's exactly the thought process that they're going through right now. Is it worth trying to catch them off guard or going with more heroes that Tempo Storm traditionally is going to prioritize? They go with the Uther.
Stitches Genji all the way.
But now Ario is available for Tempo if they wanted to try and double support. Tempo Storm has been a team that's been comfortable with going into that.
Love the confidence of those two picks from Freedom.
Yeah, it's just snap locked in. I completely agree with you. And especially with, I mean, Cure, anytime that he gets his hand on the Genji, you are in for an absolute treat.
Or a world of hurt if you're Tempo
Yeah,
Storm.
you know, I forgot. We got a lot of fans of both sides of this battlefield here. So yeah, it could go either way. But I beyond all else, he is going to put on a show. Very much so here for us today. Tempo still waiting quite a while for a very predictable transition out of Freedom, you know, going into the Stitches and into the Genji. And they decide that they're going on to an Abathur and an Arthas. So Abathur on Sky, I've talked about the high risk of that. We're now rising through the ranks of North America to the point where I'm not confident it will gain the same value we've seen in the past if Freedom puts that pressure onto those structures the way that some teams may have failed to do so far in NA.
Tempo has been willing to run Abathur on just about all battlegrounds.
Yeah.
They've even running him on Dragonshire. So it is a tried and true Tempo strategy. Likely to add the Greymane to this. There are some other options too if Greymane's banned. But in this instance, Team Freedom still don't want to allow that deadly combination, really the healing, healthful combination of Ario and Uther.
But with Arthas already on the side of the table of Tempo Storm, they already have the Abathur hat. You got to be second guessing if the Ario is actually the most effective ban, because you're like, well, do they really want that double support under these circumstances? It's not an unheard of strategy, but your first thought has got to be they are going to lack a bit into the damage in a double support Abathur composition, and maybe focus a bit more onto who the Abathur hat target would have been.
Yeah, it's somebody who needs to function both as a good clone and as someone who can be a battery to Ario, although Arthas could have been potentially the clone target. Nevertheless, Team Freedom still want to ban Ario out. Tempo Storm are going to take away Diva. No Diva Genji combo that Team Freedom have played before. The next two picks for Freedom. Malfurion still up. It has been a classic of collusion all of HGC, and it's a good combo with Stitches. So they're going to get Dahaka and Greymane.
Still a lot of single target bursts, a lot of explosion there. Having a global on their side is going to be able to help deal with the problem that can be Abathur. There's not too much siege potential on the side of Freedom in the early stages of the game, and that's what I was talking about when keeping that pressure. Sky Temple's a map where you don't necessarily need good siege to be able to make up for that pressure because of how the objective function, but it sure does not hurt you. But so it's going to be a little bit less reliable to expect Freedom to be able to, again, further their advantage in the earlier stages of the game versus an Abathur composition. So now, who is the hat target? And Illidan is the first thing you got to be thinking about right now. The fact they have Arthas on their side, they have an Uther and the Abathur. The Dahaka is kind of a bit of a bait of having that 1v1 going into that. Is there anything else you can think of?
Only if maybe Psalm wanted to play Zeratul, but I think it's more likely. Oh, we see him still pick Illidan.
Tracer? Is this going to be the Abathur hat?
Should still be another warrior.
Okay, Chen. Chen to be an Abathur hat target. There's a lot of CC on the other side of the table, though. At least, you know, Dahaka is going to be okay with being able to get the stall on that brew. We expect the Malfurion there for Collusion on the side of Freedom. That's going to have a Twilight Dream there. But remember how you and I were talking about Tracer used to be actually considered one of the hat targets too, because she is so mobile and she acts as a melee front. She doesn't get as much out of like things like Adrenal Overload, at least until she gets to the sleight of hand stage of things. But she is nothing to laugh at when it comes to a hat target. That's why I was wondering if that last pick, it's obviously nice that it is Chen, who can be a great hat target, but Tracer and Arthas are enough on their own. It's a bit of a throwback here for Tempo, going with the Abathur to place in for that Tassadar.
Yeah, and both Chen and Tracer can get the symbiote into locations to deal a lot of damage with the Spike Burst as well as Stab. Final pick for Collusion. Definitely want some sort of hook follow-up.
Polymorph is the only other thing I see.
There it is. Something to be able to deal more so with Tracer and Chen.
Yeah, it's a reliable CC for only one of two major problems on the other side. Emerald Wind, though, should be able to gain a little bit of value if we see Collusion committing to that.
Now, I am wondering who will play what for Team Freedom. We are going to see some sort of flexing because there is Dahaka and Genji. Usually when we have seen Dahaka Genji before for Team Freedom, we will see Kier go back to Dahaka and Dansky will play Genji, but with the Grey Mane, we know Dansky likely will be playing that Grey Mane unless they need Nasmus to play it. So that's initially what I want to know, who's going to be playing what, and do we get Kira's Genji?
I really hope that we end up getting Kira's Genji. I can understand the trade-off because of the other roles, but I feel like in the long run, it's a very high-impact hero. Obviously, first pick, first ban across the world, and you might as well put what I personally feel like is their best player onto it. Kira really makes things happen, but I really enjoy the draft coming out from Tempo. The Chen was, I feel like, a bit of the risk that they kind of provided, but the Tracer, Abathur, everything they have going on with the Arthas. Abathur on a map like Sky Temple, I'm always a bit hesitant into, but because there isn't a good enough siege on the other side, as long as Tempo stops the bleeding with their rotations and they have a comp to do that, I feel like Mule's going to get a lot of value. Suddenly the structures are lopsided in terms of health, and Abathur Chen Arthas is just having a heyday.
What I love about the composition of Tempo Storm 2 is that we know that Team Freedom wants to bring the fight, but instead of picking something like a ton of globals and trying to avoid the fight, Tempo is ready to bring the fight to Team Freedom, and that is going to make for one awesome game number one. So let's get into it. Sky Temple for game one between Tempo Storm and Team Freedom to kick things off.
And here are the new blood of North America. Team Freedom in the blue, where Collusion is on Brightwing. We have Cure playing the Dahaka. Zugrug is our Stitches. We have Dansky on to the Genji. And last is Nasmus on his Greymane.
Collusion showing off one of my favorite heroes. Scratch that, my favorite hero in the game. But Tempo Storm, June will be playing Uther. Fury will be on that Chen, jumping all around in the backline. Cothenluck playing his Abathur. Up next, Psalm playing Tracer. And finally, Caterpillar playing Arthas.
Cure has vision for the team. Abathur looks like he's going to be putting his body towards that bottom lane. Look at him waiting in the wayside. They expect this. Tempo Storm, tread lightly, my friends. Ooh, Nasmus went and actually gave the reveal there, so the members of Team Freedom have to walk away. They now lost vision over that eye.
This will be Collusion's first game on Brightwing in Phase 2. And it's a tall order. There is no Tassadar to help. There's no Tyrael shielding or Zarya shielding even. No second support. So it's up to Collusion as well as the rest of the members of Team Freedom to make sure that Collusion is set up for success to be able to support both teams.
Look at the flank here from Cattle. Howling Blast comes out, landing onto two. He's got the slow there from the Frozen Tempest, but Psalm flanking around. He received the Polymorph. Zugrug body blocked to death, and now First Blood going over to Tempo Storm as they conveniently set the tone here in this game.
They'll take First Blood. We do have the start of the symbiote build. And we'll see how much Cothenluck wants to dedicate talents into that. If we'll have any sort of Toxic Nest talents, maybe at 4 or 7, or if it'll just be straight all the way through for a symbiote build. focus on being able to have that extra supporting, the attack speed. Elusive Brawler is the choice for Chen to be able to avoid some of the auto attacks, as you can see here using that, as well as being able to soak up some tower shots. But the first temples are up. Team Freedom holding on to the top for now. Tempo Storm willing to trade and hold on to to the mid.
But both teams started the shrines as soon as they possibly can, and with nobody going in to be able to stall out some of the shots. Tempo has a great stall comp between the, look at that, Uther, Tracer, and the Fury there onto the Chen. Collusion received the pulse bomb, but he's actually kiting around, keeping himself up. It's only a matter of time. He's not going out because he would die and reveal himself. Beautiful movement and abuse of Fog of War.
Are you kidding me?
And now they turn it around. If he walked out of that shrub, for anybody who doesn't know, he was dead because the minions revealed him, and then Chen flies in, kicks, and kills him. So he stays in the shrub as long as possible. He breaks the corner, so Fog is now onto his side. That was one of those moments where I wish everybody at home who doesn't understand how Fog works, like you could just turn off the vision and what Tempo saw. That was so beautiful.
That was insane. There's no blink heal even to get out of there. Just Collusion abusing the vision of Tempo Storm to keep himself alive and bait just long enough for Team Freedom to be able to get their own kill.
Freedom now restoring the kills after that play to 1-2-1. Shots though traded were almost dead even between the two. Because the pressure Freedom was able to make happen on the top half though, they find themselves 1-4 ahead that of Tempo Storm. We've got to be looking towards that 7 talents here. We expect Tempo Storm's Abathur to be transitioning into the Mule, and again, that is legitimately half, the reasoning as to why you see Abathur onto a map on like Sky, because he can help with that structural integrity, which helps the objective, and more importantly, helps him do Abathur things.
Pixie Dust is going to help a little bit with the Pulse Bomb pre-10. Quantum Spike, of course, will give that % base damage. But it does give spell armor from the outset of having it at the very beginning of the game now, because of the most recent change to Brightwing. You can also get some physical armor, and it's no longer charges. It will be for the duration, and that again will help whoever is the target, the go kill target. Look at Cure and Collusion coming in. There is the polymorph, but they don't get on the point in time, so Cattle's still able to secure the bruisers, and Team Freedom have to step away.
Yeah, Cure and the rest of the Team Freedom definitely had the master game plan here. Tempo Storm looking to get the punishment. Parting Gift with the hook back. Zugrug just out of range for that slam, and Psalm manages to keep himself alive. Tempo Storm showing fight all over the map, even though Freedom is keeping pressure at all corners. Man, Freedom though, that invade very much was their invade to win, and it was just slightly miscommunicated across between Cure and Collusion. Now with the fight on bottom, we've got 4 seconds away until the second shrine spawns.
Mule starting to heal up some of the structures for Tempo Storm, trying to help make sure that they don't take too much pressure or too much damage on those structures before the later stages. Cure's gonna go out, Polymorph hits. Psalm is dangerously low in health thanks to the constant damage from Dansky.
See the Mule thrown down on bottom, which is a pretty easy clear to be able to deal with.
Psalm actually stepped back even further, understanding, and that's a Genji player knowing that he was still within Genji range of dying. So nice adjustments there, stepping back to back. Does take a little bit more time though.
You've got lethal range, and then you've got Genji lethal range.
Exactly.
It's pretty much take every other hero and multiply by 2, and in fact you're near where that Genji can be a problem. But Freedom has secured a lot of these shots on the bottom half because of that early aggression onto Psalm. Now that he is back online, Tempo's looking to be able to convert these shots into their favor. Brightwing has already gone up the top. Freedom was okay with the amount of shots that they managed to achieve early on, and now they're going to go for the 10 race. But Tempo may have something to say about that here on the bottom 4.
The only issue, though, is that Team Freedom did not, in fact, take out that fort in the bottom. Tempo Storm are going to siege, and this not only allows them to put damage, permanent damage, on the structure, but also keeps Freedom from pushing in. Now, Kira's come in, immediately stunned, has to burrow, and uses some of his assets to be able to heal back up, but the Pulse Bomb was immediately on top of him after the fact. Zugrug was cleansed back to safety. Losing Cure there. Team Freedom are just about to get 10, but don't have to Hawkeye for a little bit longer, and all the while, that fort was healed back up.
Mule, baby. That is how it works. It changes the dynamic of Sky Temple completely.
And Temple played so beautifully with that.
They very much did. They understood what they wanted to make happen. They realized that trading shots on a map like Sky Temple is not at their disadvantage as long as your structure still remains. essentially how you can view the Mule Sky Temple problem is that for every shot it has onto the turret or the fort itself, as long as the fort doesn't die, because of how Mule functions, and it's a whole nother side story, just in general, it's because you can absorb that shots, which is about a quarter to half of them, depending on which shrine we're talking about. You heal it back up, and then those shots didn't exist. So then you're taking free 50% of a shrine, and your opponent normally feels like they had the upper hand, but once the Mule comes online, it's a completely different story.
Cursed Bullet missed, but it is a shorter cooldown. I'll be back soon. Tempo Storm have been able to clear out and understand that, again, they still have to baby this lane and wait for the next Mule to come in. And it has started to heal back up. And meanwhile, as long as they're able to escort these Giants, Pulse Bomb hits Nasmus. Parting gift.
That was Jinx. You owe me a Coke.
You got it.
Dansky.
Dragon Blade!
Oh, Divine Storm! The punishment, the deflect. Dansky actually, Cyber Agility's out. He keeps himself alive. Now we see Cure there trying to make havoc onto the backline. Nasmus ripping through Cawthon Luck's clone, but that's the problem. It is just a clone here. It's 1 for 1 so far. Can Psalm get more? He gets hooked in. The Uther heals are real, and even the Flask did not seal the deal thanks to the last-second heal from Uther.
I mean, you can tell that Team Freedom is feeling the pressure of having that Brightwing. As awesome as her damage mitigation is, and will be more so with 13, they just don't feel as aggressive as we know Team Freedom to be. That they have to go in with a Dragon Blade and take so much damage that Genji has to immediately back off from that, and they feel like they are constantly retreating and not being able to aggress in the way that we know Team Freedom to like to aggress. And because they also haven't been able to take out structures as much, they're starting to fall behind in experience. And this is the point where Abathur starts to become more of a problem. But there is a drag, Cursed Bullet too.
They threw a lot into Cattle, and not too much threat actually received from him. Psalm got a bit too close to Cure, needing to get out of drag range. Drag going now again onto
Army's up in 2.
Cattle. June keeping him alive. Fury now, or excuse me, Cattle is still not focusing onto Cure. Zugra got the bile drop. Psalm taking a lot of damage. He drops the Pulse Bomb too. Cleanse is going to be forced there. Now Fury comes in with that flying kick, and they end up getting the first kill. Dansky trying to kill Psalm. He's got 1 reset, so he is fine, 1 for 1.
The secondary Arthas continues to be a thorn in the sides of Team Freedom. Adaptation was used, Cure nice and healthy, Dansky fairly so. They can continue to fight around here, and fighting is what you will see Freedom do whenever they get the opportunity, taking out June. Now they can go back to take the rest of the temple shots.
Yeah, and this is going to be really nice for them. The question is, does this get them actually the mid fort completely down? I don't think that's the case. Yeah, if the shots are just now hitting, because we have to remember that this will be muled all the way back up if it fails to die.
And Fury is making sure to push this wave so it would get some extra time for the team to regroup back in mid and defend that fort.
And look it's gonna survive. They have to finish it. They know it.
There they go.
And there they go. Good job there from Dansky and the rest of Freedom. So another fort down, mission accomplished. But they are still 1 away from being even with Tempo Storm.
Brightwing has been defending that top to the best of her ability, and Team Freedom will quickly make the rotation to bot. Tempo Storm had some members up at the top getting those bruisers to try to push against the final fort of Freedom, and in that amount of time, Team Freedom were able to go bot and get their own. Drag connects on Fury, does have Storm, Earth, and Fire, does not want to use it in this instance until they're able to start. Zugra using Putrid Bile to let the team disengage.
And it looks like they're going to be able to get themselves a disengage. I cannot convey in words how impressive that rotation was from Freedom, identifying that that was Knights, and I more importantly cannot express to you guys how important it was that fort dies.
Yes.
Because what that means for the next rest of this game, hold on a minute, I'll get to it. Cattle is looking for this invade here, and he's going to fall pretty low. Divine Storm's going to be dropped. Zugrug is now the first member down, but 2 of Tempo Storm have actually fallen afterwards, thanks to the Panda Pals going around. Tempo Storm invading, but questioning if that was maybe the best place to upset Team Freedom.
Dread, I could cry. That was so beautiful.
It was. I mean,
Did you see the pre-cleanse?
Yes.
On the Divine Storm?
So I want to.
Oh my gosh!
There's a lot to be said about
that was so good.
What we just witnessed. I'm going to start with finishing my point because I believe we're going to try and get a replay of that last skirmish for you guys. But first, from my end, is the fact that getting that fort means that every other shot in Sky is Tempo has to make something happen rather than kind of dabbling around, getting in a small skirmish and stalling out some of the shots, muling it up back later. Now Freedom is the one that can dictate everything onto those shots that all 3 of the forts are down. This minigame is going to carry over to the keeps, but only after the keep front walls are taken, which conveniently are unscathed. So this is a huge experience power spike in just teamfight power spike for Freedom.
Ooh, yay, my favorite, Bouncy Dust. Level 16 talent for Brightwing allows Pixie Dust to bounce to another nearby ally, and that does help share the shield dust. So continuing to mitigate a lot of damage as much as Collusion can from Tempo Storm. Team Freedom have been playing this game so unbelievably well, and Tempo Storm has the invades. They were handling the mules magnificently, but Team Freedom has an understanding and is proving in this game why they deserve to be going to the Western Clash.
And I brought up the Abathur on Sky Temple a couple times that we've seen it here in North America, and I talked about why that playing around the mule is so big, and Freedom's the very first team so far to actually concentrate on that. Now Abathur is why he's a risk on Sky Temple is once that first layer is gone, which you can bank on every time because it's Sky Temple. That's what it always prioritizes. He no longer has territory to be able to roam on his own. He no longer is this oppressive experience collector for Tempo Storm. It's even footing. He's equivalent to a Brightwing.
And they got the Bruisers because they knew they were going to be able to hold on to the top temple. They can clear out this wave and push along with the Bruisers.
Ideally, they do want to commit to it, but if they do, they have to all in with it. They're going to let it stand. They weren't willing to take the risk and move in, so we know that mule is going to come back here in the next couple of seconds. What does he drop down in? The missile pod that he comes in, does that have a specific name in StarCraft?
Mule Control Unit.
You know
the
what?
MCU.
I respect everything that you just came up with off the top of your head right there, because I refuse to believe
I
that
was
was
like,
real.
what would NASA name it? That seems about right.
Psalm going to take control of the eye. That is a... Sky Temple's eye is probably the most important, other than, I would argue, Cursed Hollow can really set a team back if you can't maintain vision of your own eye. But the fact that on Sky Temple it controls a lot of rotations there between mid and top, it's always a nice objective to pick up whenever you have the downtime. Giants are the focus now for Freedom. 20 is probably not a realistic option during the next Shrine phase. It's just going to be Tempo Storm. Needs to force a fight into that 18 into 19 window. And I assume there's no world where Freedom with that double global gives it.
Tempo still has the structural advantage, again, thanks to that mule and the fact that Team Freedom were willing to trade out on the Shrines in the last phase. Here throughout a drag. Collusion has shown up for the fight.
They won a battle. No adaptation used yet. There he goes. It's going to be popped. Everybody wants to make things happen. Army of the Dead is there. Kira gets the drag onto Chen, but not the target he wants. Benediction, drop for June. Zainski trying to make the damage onto Psalm. Psalm has to skirt around. Kato, though, falls so very low. The Divine Storm peels it off, and Genji is dead. June once again saves the day. Now Kothin, with that clone, is trying to slow the members of Team Freedom. Zugra got a pulse bomb, a gift he didn't want, and now he is dead too. Tempo backing out. They got the shot.
Tempo made an incredible adaptation there, and that fell down to June, being able to this time make sure that after Genji had already backed out, hitting the Divine Storm. Let's watch it again. The Cursive Bullet initially went out, and once we have the Kothin clone later on as well, the double Arthas is helping a lot. Zainski went very deep, trying to get the damage down on Psalm, but Psalm gets back in for a pulse bomb and pulls in Genji for the Divine Storm that was able to take him down.
Yeah, Arthas, as always, again, one of the best hat targets, but also clone targets. Anybody at home, if you ask yourself what makes a good clone target, it in fact is talentless heroes or heroic ones that their default kit is so very, very good on its own. And Arthas has that auto attack debuff, that slow, that snare, all instilled to his default kit.
The patience from Tempo Storm and how they were using their heroic abilities and willing to take the fight there, even though, yes, Team Freedom have beaten them in other team fights, to realize that they needed that fight, and if Team Freedom was willing to give it to them, absolutely take it.
And now, because of that Fort cycle we saw from Freedom on bottom, that was so very impressive, but the failure to do so onto that top keep, it is a pretty big experience difference, or excuse me, structure difference. Tempo Storm can capture either bottom or mid shrine from this point on, and they will secure themselves the first keep of the game. And if it spawns on bottom and they do any more damage to mid, they can actually double down on both of those keeps.
So many talents taken at 20 to try to help out with Brightwing once again. Changes survival for the reduced cooldown on adaptation, as well as the increased amount of health regeneration. Storm Shield from Brightwing, and then even Cannibalize for Stitches. His basic attacks against heroes will now be able to heal him back up for 5% of his maximum health.
On the other side, though, we've got a Chen Arthas with a Hive Mind,
Ooh,
which is
yes.
a lot of damage from Tempo Storm. Cawthon will be ripping through Freedom's health bars because Freedom's been so stacked. There are so many melees on the squad, and they've been clumped up together. Brightwing's doing her best to keep things alive, but we know that she is not the hero that is known for her supporting capabilities.
An Elemental Conduit is going to be very annoying. It makes Chen even more so because it increases the health of the spirits, but then they also, all of the powers that the Panda Pals get are increased even more. So he gets more attack speed, he gets the leaps more often because of the cooldown reduction, and then he can give himself unstoppable.
Boss seems like both teams are questioning, or at least wanting to make sure that they don't let the opponent pick it up. Mine down, nice clear there from Dansky. It's a bit of a cheap move. It's not really cheap, but it's a really cool trick you can do with Abathur, setting the mines next to that boss. Always have vision of it without the boss proccing it.
Giving vision to Zugrug so that he can try to land the hook. Kira's come in. Team Freedom has decided to fight. The slam went down, but not quite in the way that Drag was able to connect. And now Tempo Storm is just as willing to get into the fight. Collusion's been hit by the Pulse Bomb. Fury's diving in, but Collusion dodges. Fury taking him out and staying alive just a little bit longer, although the chase is real from him. Cawthon and the clone have been dealt with, but that is it. June comes in for the money. Divine Storm taking out Genji. Stitches goes down as well. Tempo Storm wins the fight.
Yeah, and Tempo Storm only losing the Uther, who has the ability to come back thanks to that redemption. Now the shots are really the only thing stopping Tempo Storm from moving into the core. Really, not even that. They are not even going to consume those shots. They move right on through here and are going to walk to the core. Cure is the last thing between Tempo and game number one. And I don't think that Cure on his own is going to have the tools here. Move up. Even if he was able to kill Psalm, I just don't feel like he's got it.
Oh, there's the Pulse Bomb. He'll have adaptation in a couple of seconds, but so many people on the core. Dahak will be taken out as Tempo Storm bring down the core of Team Freedom in game number one. And what a game number one it was!
Very impressive from both sides of the battlefield. You could see the team fighting level between these teams just seems to be an outlier compared to the rest of North America, and we got a nice show there. But when Tempo has a better understanding of the macro play, specifically with the Abathur, the Mule, and playing with that, Freedom, they did their best to be able to deal with that with starting on that bottom, but the minute they walked away from that top keep, they gave up all advantage, and it set them behind, being the ones who had to follow Tempo Storm around.
Yeah, I have to wonder again if maybe the Brightwing was just enough for Team Freedom to not feel the confidence in being able to be as aggressive as we've seen them before, both in team fights and with picks, but as well in trying to go up. Think of what a different game it might have been had they been able to actually get the keep up in the top lane. They were trying to make things happen with the Bruisers to get it, but poor Brightwing, and Collusion played magnificently for a solo support Brightwing, and the whole team tried to adapt around it. It just forced them to not be able to play in a way that maybe Malfurion would, although Malfurion into an Uther is always rough, and then again, they wanted to be able to have the Polymorph to deal with the Chen as well as the Tracer.
Yeah, you know, Collusion specifically was like the MVP for me, I feel like, in that entire game. Though he was on the losing side, what he was able to make happen multiple times, more than just that play up on top. If you look at the last fight, his ability to get the kite around, like, realistically, that is what good Brightwing play looks like. And I know that sounds really sad that, like, her goal is to run around and blink heal and draw aggro, but if you can do that and and you do not die, most of the time you drew so much aggro, you won the fight anyways. And realistically, because you can't make up for it in supporting, you open the fight with a polymorph, you just wait until the next one and hope your blink charges are just enabling somebody to be a little bit better. And the whole game, he played so well. So I'm excited to see where this goes in game two.
I definitely am as well. We asked you guys during the game who you were voting for on Twitter, whether it was Team Freedom or Tempo Storm. We have the results of that. Team Freedom just slightly, 55%. Tempo Storms, 45%. But man, it is close. But Dread, we haven't even talked about the elephant in the room.
With the fact that Tempo Storm.
Congratulations, Tempo Storm. You just qualified for the Western Clash.
Yeah, you know, I was wondering how we were going to approach that because it is a little bit weird. Normally we do it at the very end and we'll be like, we'll take a look at all the teams we know go to the midseason brawl. Yeah, or the Western Clash. Yeah, no, congratulations to Tempo Storm. That win right there 100% solidifies the fact that they are now going to be your Western Clash representatives. And that means that we know in order now.
Nope.
No, we don't.